Something special. We have a Bo and West Southern Food Lab barbecue Christmas delight.
Hello! It's a pleasure to be here, man. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, man. Thanks for allowing me to do this with you.
Well, I mean, today I think we're going to sort of go through one thing we love to do here at the brewery is we love to do barbecue. And, you know, there's a certain point to where you just get tired of pork and chicken all the time. So we decided we were going to show you how I like to prep and cook a brisket. I thought it's
brisket.
Christmas brisket, indeed. So, yeah, we're going to go through and, I hope you enjoy the ride. What are you most excited about, Wes?
I know how to cook pork and chicken really well. I've kind of struggled with brisket in the past, so I'm hoping that I can learn a few tips and tricks from you.
Right on. Well, I mean, the first thing that I know a lot of people that used to get really caught up in making very exotic rubs.
Yeah.
You know, and you can do as much of that or as little of that as you want. But one thing that I think is very important with brisket is doing a traditional, what's called a Dalmatian rub.
Yep.
And that's going to be pretty much equal parts by weight of kosher salt and coarse black pepper. We're going to mill our own today because I got a big food processor. But if you don't have that, a coarse ground pepper is going to be the best. You don't want to use the really fine stuff from like a pepper shaker. So if you can find some coarse ground, I mean, it's available online. It's available, you know, locally in Tuscaloosa, somewhere like Manna that sells bulk herbs and spices.
Yep.
And so it should be out there. So don't let that stop you. And if you have to buy it pre-ground, that's okay.
Yep. Well, we're gonna move over here and set up to do this. So
yeah. So time out. Well, so I'm using a food processor. Now this one's a little bigger than a lot of household ones, but a household one will do it. So I'm just gonna dump all these peppercorns in here, and that's gonna make a little bit of a racket, but that's all right. We just want to get it a nice coarse grind. I'm gonna sort of hold the bag it came in over it so we don't have a pepper volcano. And then we're just gonna go to town. So we've ground our peppercorns to a really coarse grind, which I really like on a brisket. And much like baking, I find that weight is it's a great equalizer compared to volume. You know, you can get things at different densities in there. So let's see how much we've got our scale zeroed out here. We've got it set to ounces, although it could be grams, whatever, as long as you make sure they're uniform. Yep. So we've got about 4.7, you know, somewhere in that line. So now we're gonna take some kosher salt if I can get into it. So we're gonna double 4.7. Now what is that for us math challenged, Wes?
So I always, like once I got my original measurement, I always just kind of tear it out. So that I'm having
good call.
4.7 again.
Yeah. You know, work smarter, not harder, like Scrooge McDuck said. Now we want 4.7 again, you know, add slowly.
Ooh.
Oh, just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Ew.
Wow, right on the nose. So that's basically the rub that's going to be for the brisket. Now I'm going to mix it up and add it to this empty salt shaker that I've got. And it's going to look a little more peppery. Trust me, by the time it sits on this big cut of meat, it's going to be all right. You know, one thing to take into account when you're shopping for a brisket is that you'll see some labeled a flat and some labeled a point. Now, if we look at the brisket, oddly enough, the pointy end here is going to be what's called the point. Now, this is what's called in the flatter end over here is the flat. They didn't get real creative when they came up with this. But also, you can buy them. This is what's called a whole packer brisket. So that is both the point and the flat. Now, these muscles, the flat, and they align differently. Now, that's going to be something once we get into cutting it that we can sort of show you. But yeah, we're going to get this guy down and do some trimming. So let's get her opened. We've got this big old brisket here. Isn't she lovely? I like to give her a little pat down just to make it to where the top isn't so slippery. Both the top and the bottom.
And the beef smell.
Yeah, it's beefy. So you'll see that the most of this, there's a big layer of fat here. And if you look on the side, you can see that's a pretty thick. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna start slowly taking that down. And like I said, you wanna leave about 1/4 inch, a pencil maybe width. And if you get down a little bit into the meat, it's okay, it's not the end of the world. But you just gotta try your best because you want, with this rub, to be able to kind of go through it. See, I got a little deep there, but we'll start over here.
So we're all trimmed up.
We're all trimmed up. We let the train go by. So I like to keep one hand, you know, clean hand, dirty hand, clean hand, dirty hand, clean hand,
Wet,
dirty
dry
hand.
hand,
Yeah. And that way you can still do it, but you have more dexterity and you don't cross-contaminate your spices or some of the other things. And this is gonna look like it is way too much, but trust me, you want a good thick coat on here. That's something I'm not sure we talked about. We're gonna let this sit overnight. And so that way, we're gonna draw, the salt's gonna draw all the moisture out, and then it goes back in. It's beautiful, it's like the ocean.
Yeah.
Flavor tides. We're not just roll tides here in Tuscaloosa.
Flavor tides.
All right, I feel halfway decent about that. We're gonna flip it over, we'll lose a little. We can always add a little bit more. You know, we're lucky to be on a stainless steel table here, so cleanup's pretty easy, but you know, just keep some rags, maybe a little kitchen sanitizer around. We're also gonna get the sides. You can't neglect the flanks. Double check, make sure I didn't really miss a big spot. This looks pretty good to me. I've got just a regular deep aluminum pan. Should fit just nice. And we're gonna cover that with aluminum foil and put it in our fridge. And we're gonna reconvene it tomorrow where we're gonna start building a fire.
Yep.
And we're gonna get up to temp. We're gonna pull it out maybe about an hour before we're going to put it on the heat so it can kind of acclimate the temp.
Well, we're back the next morning early.
Feeling fresh.
Really fresh.
So this bad boy has sat overnight and really thought about what it's done. We're about to get them nestled in on our cooker outside, which it's a Shirley Fabrication cooker from here in Tuscaloosa, where we are. They're
Just all the things.
all the things.
It's like we're in a
That was
kitchen.
just our coffee maker. Yes, we need a little bit of stuff to get us going this morning. And so it's a counterflow. The firebox is on the same side as the chimney. The heat and smoke move all the way down, around, and then back out. So it has a baffle under there that sort of radiates heat uniformly. I find that it helps that particular design with different hot spots in there since it's radiating pretty uniformly throughout. So I think we've got nothing left to do but go get this guy on. Let's pour over. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. Follow me, I know the way. Now be careful. Sort of a minefield back here. Boy, howdy. Alright, we're up to a good temp. We're a little hot right now. We're at about 280. It's okay to put it in right now and, then it's going to drop and we're really going to try to maintain around 250. I know a lot of people do 225. I've experienced no real problems. I had 250 and that's just sort of how I like to do it. So we got a couple of probes in here so we really could keep an eye on our ambient temperature in the chamber. You can't really trust the ones on the outside of a smoker, especially after a little while. So we're gonna get this point first. It's right in there. And so don't want your ambient thermometers really touching it. That would kind of be spooky. And then we're gonna let her ride for a while now, and probably when we hit a certain temperature, we'll either wrap this in butcher paper or foil. Sort of, it helps bypass the stall. The stall is a whole science thing about when some of the moisture in the meat is evaporating and it's actually cooling. That's why when doing a pork butt or something, it'll get up to that 160, 170 very fast. It doesn't seem like it'll hang out there forever. And so that's why you wrap it. It helps keep that in there, and you'll actually jump past that stall. It'll happen much more quickly. So we'll be back here in a little bit. All right, I think we're gonna check the fire real quick just to see how we're going. And you'll remember we started with a good amount of coals and some wood, but one thing that you have to be really cognizant about is as the ash forms, it can smother it so it can't breathe. So one thing I do, and depending on your setup, is I just get under here, get some of that ash out from under it so it can breathe. It looks like it's about time to add a log. We're at about the temp we want. So we don't want to add too much. We just want to maintain a bed of coals that's burning good and clean. So we're now at a place that we were talking about earlier, the stall, about when the evaporation sort of starts to also cool it. And so a good rule of thumb is that it's usually around 160 degrees, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. We've been at about 158 for over half an hour. So I really think we've achieved that equilibrium of the evaporation and the cooling. So what we're gonna do is commonly called a Texas crunch. That's where you're going to wrap your brisket, but you wanna not do it too soon. You wanna make sure that your bark is established. You'll see in a second, I think we're at that place. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna limit that evaporation and help you speed past that without getting the outside overdone. So we're gonna pull it out. I'm gonna get Wes to help me and give me a little foil. Let's see if you can get in here and see this bad boy. We've got a little chicken and a twice smoked ham going, because once you get it fired up, why not do it?
We're gonna go like that.
All right.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Creating a little parcel, as it were. We've got beef mail. We're gonna go from there. We're gonna throw this bad boy back in there, and we're just gonna keep an eye on its tip. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, there we go. So, we're about to temp on the brisket we want. Now, we're gonna have to let her set for a little while, but I wanted to just sort of let y'all look at what she's looking like. Once again, always when we fire up the smoker, you might as well have some other things going. So I've got a little double smoked ham with a little beer mustard and hot honey glaze. That's gonna be delicious, but that's a story for another day. Let's get this bad boy out. Feels majestic. All right, let's get this, close back up. With that ham, it just needs to think about what it's done for another tiny second. Now, Wes, traditionally you're going to want to let this rest for at least, 3 hours?
3-4 hours. It's like down to like 110, 120 degrees.
Yeah, because one of the things you don't want to do is it's very hard, because once you've got something like this, of course, it's easy to I want to sample it to make sure it's good, but now that's going to be a fool's errand, because you're going to lose a lot of juices, you're going to lose flavor. You got to hold on to it. So, as much as I want to show it to you right now, I think we're going to sit on this for another 2 or 3 hours, and then we're going to show you what it looks like when we're done, and show you a cut of it. This is going to be delicious. It's going to bring a tear to a glass eye.
Well, that's the next day. We both sadly had obligations to do yesterday, so we're back the next day. We've kind of warmed up a little bit of the brisket just so we could do a tasting, but you can look at this, and there's just this beautiful smoke ring that we've got on this.
Also, you can tell with that trimming that we talked about that you wanted to leave that pencil-sized width layer of fat on top, and that's just enough, because you don't want it to be so mouth coating. So I'm really happy with the trim that we did there.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. You ready to try a little bit?
Let's try a little bit. All right, we'll go for this one.
So you can look at that fat, so juicy, it's well rendered.
There's something called the pencil test about whether you can hold it like this.
And we're back.
And we're back.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Man, that fat just immediately stands out. Breaks down, hits your palate. You got that smoky flavor in it. Boy,
Bring it here to a black.
and well, it's so tender, even it being a day old, like, it's hard to touch me. That's a fine brisket.
I'm really proud of what we did here. It's been really fun, frankly, to be able to share with you, cook with you, and to learn a little bit together.
Man, I really enjoyed it. I want to bring in some of the Druid City folks.
Yeah, let's let them have a try. We'll cut you a couple of pieces. This one's a little thick
Yeah.
for
Get it in here. I want to say, while you guys set up, thank y'all for letting me be here to this weekend. And really, it's taken an entire weekend to record this video. It turned out fantastic. I don't think you can ask for a better brisket.
you. I think so too. Boys, dig in.
So we've got Seth, we've got Kevin, we've got Todd.
All part of the brewery family.
Yeah, for a long time. Really appreciate all y'all do. This is a fine brisket.
It was really good.
It's good, and it's
Really good.
pretty good.
That's how I raised Kevin.
What is that, Fresh Kevin?
That's tasty.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I want to thank y'all for stopping by today. Remember to like and subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Bye.
Cool.